Hello, my name is Reiko Osoroshi. On this channel, I narrate Japanese ghost stories. Today's ghost story is about spirit of a stillborn child. Spirit of a stillborn child. The spirit of the stillborn child is a term related to Japanese folklore and beliefs. In Japan, there is a concept of the Sanzu River. This river is believed to separate the realms of the living and the dead. After death, those deemed worthy of reaching heaven, referred to as Gokuraku Jodo, in Japan are allowed to reach the Sanzu River, board a boat, and cross this river to enter the afterlife, referred to as Yomi, in Japan. The term, spirit of the stillborn child, likely refers to the spirits of infants who were stillborn or died shortly after birth. In Japanese folklore, it is believed that these spirits may require special rituals or prayers to ensure their peaceful journey in the afterlife, similar to other departed souls. In summary, the spirit of the stillborn child is associated with the belief in the Sanzu River and the afterlife in Japanese culture, particularly concerning infants who died before they could fully experience life. On the shores of the Sanzu River, it is said that stones are stacked everywhere. But why? These stones are believed to have been stacked by young children who couldn't cross the Sanzu River and were left idle. Surprisingly, every child who dies at a young age is unable to cross the Sanzu River, regardless of the reason for their passing. The reason is that dying at a young age is considered a sin that brings unhappiness to one's parents, and it prevents them from being allowed to go to heaven. It's a very sad story. So, what happens to these children who couldn't go to the afterlife? Since they cannot cross the Sanzu River, they attempt to cross other bodies of water in the world of the living, such as rivers and seas. These are the spirits of the stillborn child. It is believed that in some cases, when young children pass away near rivers or seas, it may be attributed to the influence of these spirits. To prevent these unfortunate spirits from lingering in the world of the living and causing harm, many shrines in Japan conduct rituals and ceremonies to help them reach heaven as soon as possible. Why did I tell you this story? Japan has abundant water resources and there are still unexplored places. This means that there are many unattended spirits of the stillborn child. Knowing this, I want you to hear the story of what I experienced. This happened in the summer when I turned 20, and I had just reached the legal drinking age with my friends. There were 4 of us, with me A, B, C, and D. Excited about finally being able to drink alcohol, we were having a great time. That's when B suggested that we should go to a certain haunted spot. The location was quite rural, near a dam, and had some connection to water, which led us to believe there might be a shrine for stillborn child spirits there, where paranormal activity was rumored to occur. It was likely that in such a remote area with limited entertainment, people spread these kinds of rumors just for fun. I initially thought it was silly, but I agreed to visit the haunted spot for the sake of having a good time. B was driving, and we all brought flashlights. We arrived near the dam, but apparently, to reach the shrine, we had to follow a mountain path. It sounded absurd, and I thought there was no way such a place existed. I suggested that we stop and explore the area. The pitch-black mountain was already eerie enough, and to be honest, I was ready to go home. However, C suddenly said, "Hey, can't we pass through here?" There was a narrow path among the dense undergrowth that could be considered a trail. B added, "Since we're here, why not give it a try?" B was excited about the idea, so I reluctantly followed along. To avoid getting lost, we tied strips of plastic tape to the trees as we moved forward. After a while, we reached an open area. There was nothing particularly unusual about it, except for a small shrine located against a cliff. B explained, "No way, it's real." C said, "Amazing, let's take a look." D, however, expressed concern, saying, "Isn't this a bit sketchy?" Despite our reservations, B decided to approach the shrine. It was a wooden structure in a deteriorated state with moss covering it. Inside the shrine, there were worn-out charms and a small stone figurine resembling Jizo, a guardian deity of children. B reached out to take the figurine, joking that he would bring it back as a souvenir to show off. Some of us, including me, C, and D, found it unsettling and said, "It's creepy, let's not do that." However, he didn't listen and continued with his plan, so we let him be. After a while, I noticed a hole at the back of the shrine, facing the cliff. From a distance, it wasn't visible from the shrine itself, but upon closer inspection, it was a small hole large enough for one person to enter. I asked the others if it might be an air raid shelter from the wartime during World War II. Residents dug holes to protect themselves from incendiary bombs. But they replied, "There's no way it would be here, and I wonder what it is." B, on the other hand, suggested going inside. I voiced my concern, saying, "Senpai, it could be dangerous," but C and D challenged me, asking, "Are you scared?" Feeling a bit provoked, I replied, "No, I just thought it might collapse or something. It's not about fear, it's about safety." Then, to prove that I wasn't scared, I reluctantly agreed. So, we decided to enter one by one. Now, I deeply regret ever going inside. B took the lead, followed by C, D, and me. We ventured further inside. It felt like we had been walking for quite some time, and it seemed like an eternity. After a while, we began to hear voices from the others. B, what is this place? It's cold. C, I hate it, it's creepy. D, it's so cold. This is the worst. What is this? I followed suit, and my feelings mirrored those of my friends. Before us was an open space with water about knee deep. We shone our flashlights around and discovered that the walls were filled with toy windmills. It was unclear how they were installed due to the darkness. In the center of the space, there was something resembling an altar, with a box covered in countless amulets on top. As we stood there in a daze, B moved forward, seemingly undeterred by the water, towards the altar. With excitement in his voice, he reached out for the box-like object atop the altar. Then, in an instant, as B was about to touch it, all the toy windmills that lined the walls began spinning with a resounding, clack 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 clack, sound. It was impossible, as there should have been no wind inside this cave. C and D, scared and crying, screamed, "No, stop it." B, startled, dropped the box into the water. Simultaneously, we heard loud cries of, "Wah, wah, wah," as if several babies were crying. The sound of the spinning toy windmills was gradually drowned out by the loud cries. We were all dumbfounded, but suddenly I snapped out of it and shouted, "Let's run." I yelled at the top of my lungs. And everyone instantly regained their senses, fleeing the cave in a frantic rush. We ran without thinking, and before we knew it, B was driving us away in his car. I couldn't recall how far we still heard the cries of the babies and the spinning toy windmill sounds. But I had a feeling we could hear them for a while even after leaving the cave. Eventually, we reached a convenience store, and everyone seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. B said, "I'll drop you all off at your homes, let's call it a day." C and D agreed, saying, "That was so scary, and, my shoes are soaked, this is the worst." I felt relieved too. But then D suddenly screamed, "Ah!" We looked, and his pants were covered in mud. When we examined it closely, the mud was in the shape of tiny handprints, covering his pants completely. It was terrifying. In a somber mood, we each went home with B's ride. And then, that night, I received a call from B. Me, hello? B, hey, I did something really bad. I brought back that Jizo statue they were worshipping. I responded, "That's not good, senpai. Maybe you should take it back to the shrine or something?" But it seemed like B's phone had poor reception. I could barely hear his voice, and it gradually faded away. All I could hear from the phone were the sounds of babies crying, like, "Oh yeah. Oh yeah." I quickly hung up and went to sleep. The next day, I tried calling B, but I couldn't reach him at all. Then, I got a call from C. "C, something terrible happened. D-chan was in a car accident." She was crying as she spoke. I rushed to the hospital, and it turned out that D had severe leg injuries, and amputation was the only option. After that, things became awkward between D and me, and we drifted apart. By the way, B remained missing in action, and when I visited his house, I learned that he had moved away, and no one knew where he had gone. Now, you might be wondering why I decided to share this story. Well, after about a decade, C contacted me, and we had a chance to talk. She told me that she had developed a tumor, which led to her being unable to have children, and she was in tears. Fortunately, C's husband chose to stay with her despite everything, so there was a silver lining in her misfortune, I suppose. With this, I conclude my story. You might be thinking, lucky you, nothing bad happened to you, and you survived. But here's the thing, ever since that call from B, I hear it every time I go to sleep, the sound of the spinning toy windmill. Kara 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 kara, and the cries of babies, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." My hope is that you, dear viewers, can sleep peacefully after hearing this. How was it? It's unfortunate, but all we can do is pray for them. For all of you, please be cautious and avoid going to such places just for fun. If you've listened to this story, I'd appreciate it if you could share your thoughts in the comments section. Please do leave a comment. If you have any other stories you would like me to introduce or any questions about the stories, please leave a comment. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next episode.